A woman reflects on how a friend's life fell apart. I discuss this and more on today's episode. Welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I found in my travels. Today is Short Story Tuesday, so I want to talk about an interesting short story that I found in my local library in a collection, really. And today's short story is all about a failed life and reflecting on friendships. I am referring to A Simple Question from the short story collection Old Crimes by Jill McCorkle, which was published in 2024. For those who don't know, Jill McCorkle is an American writer, white American writer, who has been getting their work published since the late 80s, 90s. They've been writing for quite some time, writing books and short stories, mostly short stories. They teach in North Carolina, at the University of North Carolina, and that's pretty much all that I know about Jill McCorkle. She's won a few awards, but not much other information out there. Seems to be a pretty, interesting writer. People like their work. But without further ado, let's talk about A Simple Question. I will do a summary, a little bit of analysis, and we will move on from there. So, A Simple Question focuses on Anna. She is a single teacher who their life just seems to be getting started. At least in the memory that they're looking back on. They're reflecting on a former friendship with a woman named Muriel that happened a while back. It apparently didn't work out, and they were much younger at the time. Muriel is an older woman, kind of like a mother to Anna, really warm and friendly, but is dealing with some things in her own life that are a bit of a struggle. Muriel has a son who initially is very pleasant, but he once he hits his teen years, he begins acting somewhat strangely, lashing out and saying that he wants to die, but also that he wants his mother to die. It's very extreme behavior. And so Anna sees this happening, but she doesn't really interact with the family's lives so much, so she doesn't do anything about it. And as the son gets older, he eventually leaves and goes out on his own, doesn't tell where the family, where he's going to be, but he calls and ends up at a motel where he doesn't have any money, and so Muriel goes and picks him up. This upsets her husband, who calls her an enabler, and he says he can't really be in this relationship anymore and goes off and has his own family, and rumor is that he has another family after getting divorced. So Muriel doesn't really have that person that she loves anymore, and as it also turns out, the son kills himself because there's a gun in the house, and he uses that, which deeply upsets Muriel. But a short while later, Muriel and Anna go see The Death of a Salesman, the famous play, and this is really what prompted the sort of flashback that we saw at the beginning of the story, where Anna reflects on a simple question that Muriel had wanted to ask her before they went to see the play, but they were interrupted by the play itself. And so Muriel isn't able to ask it, and Anna rushes home afterwards, not really thinking of what kind of question that Muriel was going to ask. But that really seems to be the last time they really talked, and a while later, Muriel dies of an unspecified illness. And as the story comes to a close, Anna reflects on the decision she made there. Why was she so in a hurry to rush home? to be in an apartment that she didn't really like, to eat food that she maybe couldn't really afford. Why couldn't she have, reached out to Muriel and inquired about how she was doing? And that's where the story ends there. In terms of analysis, this story is pretty depressing, but there's a little bit worth talking about here. One of the things that McCorkle is touching upon here is the failed life. Looking back and seeing that your life hasn't really gone all that great. Muriel is a tragic character who has lost quite a lot through her life. Her marriage has failed because her husband just couldn't stick around and deal with a son who wasn't doing all that well. Her son is very angry at the world. He's like, there's a point where like someone asks, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you behaving this way? And he replies, what the fuck is wrong with you? Sort of pointing the question back, and that could just be, a bit of, teenage angst and anger or something like that, although the story does show that it's probably more than that. It also suggests that maybe there's something wrong with Muriel, that there's just an element that's not quite right. And maybe that's also why the husband left, is that Muriel wasn't simply enabling the son's behavior, or not really enabling it. Taking care of your children isn't enabling behavior. But maybe it's also that Muriel was not an effective parent or something like that, that there was some quality that Anna couldn't see about her because Anna was too young, because the story is presented from Anna's perspective. And then, like, later on in her life, an illness takes her, an unspecified illness. So things really aren't really ending well for Muriel, or don't go very well for Muriel throughout her life. And it's very interesting because in the short story, they do mention going to see Death of a Salesman, which is another story, a play about a man whose life did not end well, and in the end, he kind of takes his own life in order to get an insurance payout for his family. So that's kind of like a parallel to what Muriel was seeing, and maybe, she seeing it, she didn't really ask her question because it was kind of answered by the play. Maybe that's something to consider there. But it's also interesting because Anna kind of remembers this as a personal failure for herself. Why didn't I ask, what she was going to ask? Why didn't I reach out to her? Why didn't I do more to comfort her? Maybe that also has to do a little bit with life experience, which I'll get to in a few moments. But not only is Muriel kind of like did her life not go the way she expected, but Anna's seems to be following a similar path. Why is she thinking about this in the first place? Another really good question. But it's clear that Muriel's experience has had a lingering effect on Anna's mind. McCorkle is also writing about life experience in this story, not only the failed life, but the differences between two people. Muriel provides Anna with some guidance from her own experience, and it seems to be a mentorship or a mom-like relationship between two women. But even though, Muriel is helpful, Anna doesn't seem to provide much back. Maybe it's because she's too young. She doesn't really know what Muriel is looking for. It's kind of one of those friendships where you can't really reciprocate all the help you're given, because what could Anna really provide Muriel except for maybe an empathetic shoulder to talk to? She can't really sort of provide similar guidance or even direction on how to sort of raise her child. And a lot of that has to do with the son's changes. How does Anna address that, especially when she's only seeing a peek into Muriel's life at a time? When I think about it, maybe it wasn't even that series of that deep of a friendship. It seems like they worked together, they were acquaintances, and they maybe hung out from time to time, but they didn't have a deeper sort of relationship. But Anna still kind of blames herself, which is important to note there. The experience especially, or the differences in experience especially, become apparent when Anna does try to sort of talk to Muriel. She, at one point, Muriel's talking to her, and Anna's like, oh, don't worry, your husband will come back one day, and, it'll be up to you to let him back into your life, but things will probably turn out for the better. And the narrator notes, that Muriel wanted to tell Anna that, that's, you're naive, that's not going to happen. What do you do when the person that you loved says, it's not going to work out? And what do you do when your child, you can't communicate with your child? Anna doesn't know any of that. Like, Muriel's too kind to say that to Anna, and maybe that would have been good for Anna to hear, but like, Anna, like, tries to console her and can't quite do it because she can't reach Muriel, as I've been saying. So it's interesting that McCorkle is kind of highlighting those differences between the two in terms of life experience. I do have like a couple of issues with the story. The first is like, why is this presented in a flashback presentation? At the beginning of the story, it's like, oh, something caused Anna to sort of reflect on this moment. But what precisely did that? We're not really told much about what's happening to Anna's life in the present moment. Like, there's squirrels in her walls, apparently. She's living in an apartment that she doesn't really like. Maybe she's not married. I don't think she has kids, but she works at a school. Maybe she wants something better, but I think McCorkle should have really spelled out more about what was happening to Anna in the present moment, because otherwise this flashback, like, it's an interesting sort of story. Like, there's a lot to talk about here, but it seems like a lot about nothing. Like, maybe the story should have been a little bit longer, or McCorkle should have clarified what prompted Anna to think about this, because it seems like a very crucial moment. Like, why is Anna still thinking about Muriel? Like, sure, it's a personal failure, but what about it makes it that important of a personal failure? What's going on in Anna's life? And I feel like a little bit is missing that can really bring this story home and help it fully stand out there. Anyway, those are my thoughts on A Simple Question by Jill McCorkle. Pretty fun, but kind of a little bit flawed short story there. Again, like many of the short stories in this collection, feel like a lot of words about very little. Sure, they're about like people's like past and, you know, people sort of trying to confront, you know, where their lives have gone. But I feel like you get a lot of those types of short stories, and nothing really sets these short stories apart from that. And at this point, you know, I've been doing this for about 4 or 5 years now. So I feel like, you know, if I keep encountering these types of short stories, something has to set them out apart from the rest. Otherwise, you know, you just toss it on the pile. So yeah, I don't really think much sets it apart from the other short stories like this. So not really reason to really pursue going out and reading it. But I still might enjoy like finding more about McCorkle and checking out her other books, because something tells me like this writing could maybe be better if it was written out in, say, a novel format. But that's just maybe something I'm looking for there. But yeah, this is this has been my review. If you have any, you know, thoughts or questions or anything, let me know what you think in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that more people can find out about this short story, this collection, or this author if they don't already know. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and life experience differing kind of travels. Farewell.